By the dawn of the 20th century, the Mafia was no longer a loose network of rural protectors. It had become an institution, rooted in the land, embedded in the culture, tolerated by the people, and feared by those in power. They wore suits, attended church, and kissed babies at public festivals. They also collected pizzo, protection money, enforced justice, and ruled with knives in the dark. The Mafia had no single leader, no official doctrine. It was a philosophy, a system, a hidden government behind the scenes. And in Sicily, that shadow government was often more efficient, more respected, and more feared than the one in Rome. By 1900, the seed had fully grown. What began as protectors had become predators. The Sicilian Mafia was no longer just a whisper in the hills. It was a kingdom without a crown, ruled by silence, blood, and fear. In the world of the Sicilian Mafia, the greatest weapon is not the gun. It is silence. Ritual, myth. Before the blood, before the power, there was a code. An oath. A ceremony cloaked in darkness, never written, only lived. This is the heart of Cosa Nostra. 1. Omertà, the vow of eternal silence. Omertà is not just a rule, it is the spine of the Mafia. A vow that demands silence in the face of death. A rejection of the state, a rejection of betrayal. Its roots go deep into Sicilian history, back to when peasants had no faith in justice, where honor was protected not by law, but by family. In Mafia culture, to inform is to die, not just you, but your family, your bloodline, your name. Omertà became sacred. You do not speak to the police. You do not reveal the inner workings of your family. You do not betray, even when tortured, even when facing a life sentence. Omertà is not just silence. It is a religion of fear, a code stronger than steel. Those who broke it were called infami, the lowest of the low. Their fate was death, and no one mourned them. 2. The ceremony of blood, becoming a man of honor. To be part of the Mafia, a true member, a uomo d'onore, one must undergo a ritual. This is not superstition. It is power through symbolism. The ceremony usually took place in secret, often in abandoned farmhouses, candlelit chapels, or hidden cellars. Here is how it unfolded. The initiation room. The candidate stood before the family's inner circle, his godfather present, often with a blade or pistol on the table. 2. The saints and the blood. A holy card, usually of a Catholic saint, was placed in the initiate's hands. A finger was pricked and the card soaked in his blood. The card was lit on fire. 3. The oath. As the flames licked his fingers, the initiate recited, "If I betray, may my flesh burn like this saint." 4. The embrace. The boss, or capodicina, embraced him. From this moment, he was reborn, not into religion, but into a world of shadows. This ritual created unbreakable loyalty. It symbolized that the Mafia was above all else. 3. Rules of Cosa Nostra, the Mafia's constitution. Despite its criminal roots, the Mafia functioned with strict discipline. There was a clear structure, a hierarchy, a set of inviolable rules, many passed down orally, across generations. These rules were absolute loyalty to the family, no contact with the police or law enforcement, even for personal matters, no direct harm to women or children, no stealing from other members, no showing disrespect to other men of honor. Breaking these rules often resulted in execution without warning. This code was not just about crime, it was about honor, obedience, and power. A mafioso was expected to live and die by it. 4. the structure of a silent army. By the early 20th century, the Mafia was no longer just a gang. It was a system of governance with its own military-like hierarchy. The typical structure looked like this: Capo di tutti capi, boss of all bosses, rare mythical status; Capo famiglia, boss, leader of a family; Consigliere, advisor, strategist, elder; Capodecina, captain, leader of 10 soldiers; Soldati, soldiers, the foot soldiers; associates, outsiders, collaborators, not yet initiated. Each rank had its duties and protocols. Power flowed downward, but fear flowed upward. No one acted without permission. All violence was sanctioned. A murder without authorization was treason. 5. The role of the Catholic Church. Despite their crimes, the Mafia cloaked themselves in religion. Church attendance was expected. Weddings and funerals were grand affairs, public shows of faith. Many mafiosi carried rosaries and saint medallions. But this was not devotion, it was illusion. They used religion as a shield, a tool for legitimacy. To the public, they were devout Catholics. Behind closed doors, they were men who killed without blinking.
6. Fear as order. One of the most powerful rituals was not a ceremony, but a practice. Sending a dead animal as a warning. A flower placed on a doorstep. A whispered phrase in the street. A single gunshot fired into the air near a target's home. These symbolic gestures weren't random. They were calculated, precise, ancient. They created a climate of control without violence, because in many cases the threat of mafia punishment was more powerful than actual force. People policed themselves out of fear of invisible retribution. This was ritualized terror. And it worked. 7. Women and the Code. Women were never made members, but they were far from irrelevant. Mafia wives and mothers upheld Omertà just as fiercely. They kept secrets. They raised sons to be loyal soldiers. They held families together while the men went underground or to prison. Some, in rare cases, took revenge or passed on messages from fugitive bosses. But their role was always defined by the code: obedience, silence, loyalty. To betray the family was unthinkable, even under threat of death. 8. Breaking the code, a rare and fatal sin. On the rare occasion when someone broke Omertà, the consequences were swift and brutal. In 1901, a mafioso named Giovanni Passalacqua attempted to cooperate with authorities. He was found shot and dismembered. In other cases, turncoats were lured to meetings, then killed by their own godfathers. Their names were erased. Their families left disgraced or killed. The message was clear. Once you are in, there is only one way out. The blood oath was not metaphorical, it was a death contract. 9. The Mafia as a cult. By the early 1900s, the Mafia had become more than a network. It was a cult of silence built on ritual and terror. Its strength came not from numbers, but from its unbreakable code. A Mafia soldier was not just a criminal, he was a believer. Every handshake, every kiss on the cheek, every whisper, it all served the ritual. In a world where trust was deadly, the Mafia built an empire on belief, not just in power, but in the myth of itself. They were not born monsters. They were made by blood, by fire, by silence. In their world, a man's word was law, and his death was written in silence.